Hey there, welcome to Mike's Collection, episode 360. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is my best of the first quarter of 2025. So I've been doing YouTube now for, I think 6 years, and every year, at the end of the year, like every other YouTuber out there, I do my best of the year list. So I look at all the action figures I purchased in a given year, and I give you what I think are the best. I usually do my top 20 of a given year. So what I had done in the past is at the end of the year, I would look at the hundreds of action figures I bought, and I would eliminate the action figures, and I'd end up with the top 20, and I would share that list with you. But a couple of years ago, I decided to include you in the elimination process, because some people seem to think that's fun. So I take all the action figures that I got the entire year, I put them on my desk, and I eliminate it till I get down to my final 20. Although my desk is only so big, and I do buy a lot of action figures, as you can maybe tell from a little look around my room here. So it got to be too much to put all of my action figures from an entire year on my desk. So I started breaking things up into quarters. So now, every quarter of every year, I take all the action figures I bought over those 3 months, put them on my desk, I do an elimination. I try to get it down to, let's say, a maximum of 15 figures, but I don't really have any hard and fast rules there. So about 15 figures, and those 15 figures will carry on, and they will be included in my best of the year video. Well, they will compete with the other figures that move on from the other 3 quarters. So we'll see. None of the figures that I have here are guaranteed to make my best of the year list at the end of the year, but they might. Maybe they all will. Who knows? So I do have a good collection of action figures here. My desk is looking pretty full. So I'm going to dive into that. My only rules when I do these lists is that the action figure has to have been released in this calendar year, and obviously I have to have acquired it myself. So there's lots of awesome action figures that get released every year that I don't collect, either because they're outside of my price range or it's just not a genre I'm into or whatever. So it's out of the action figures that I bought, and anything that I might have purchased that was released in a previous year is automatically eliminated. So having said all that, why don't we dive in and take a look at potentially the best action figures of 2025. So here they are, all my action figures from the first quarter. Now, I actually meant to mention this in my introduction, but I forgot. But over here, just off of my desk, I have a couple of vehicles from the DC Superpowers line. Now, vehicles typically don't count towards my best of the year list anyway, but like this Batmobile here, it's pretty cool, but it was released at least 2 years ago. I just recently picked it up. This would not count for my list because not only is it not from 2025, but it didn't come with an action figure anyway, so it wouldn't count. Now this thing here, this is Black Manta Submarine. This will count because it is from the current year. It's a pretty cool little sub. It's pretty simple. You pop this and the cockpit flies open there, and it's got some cool little shark-shaped missiles on the bottom and everything. It's a fun little piece. But this here came with a Black Manta figure. So the Black Manta figure is on my desk for consideration, and this submarine can be counted as one of his accessories, so it kind of gives him a leg up over the competition. So I just wanted to quickly mention that. So now we'll take a look at these action figures. Now, I've done quite a few of these videos over the years, and I think this one here is going to have the most early eliminations simply because these figures don't qualify. I've got every figure I bought this quarter on my desk, and some of them were released. Most of the ones that don't qualify were released just last year, but I've got a couple of really old ones here. Like this Ice Viper figure from the original G.I. Joe Real American Hero line. This figure here, I just recently picked up at a little antique store. So yeah, he obviously doesn't count because he's super old. Same as this werewolf, this Wolfman figure. I picked him up at the same antique shop. This figure is about 20 years old. So yeah, those guys obviously don't count. Now, those guys aside, I've got a bunch of figures. I kept them all up front so I could quickly get rid of them. I've got a couple of Street Fighter figures here. Ken Masters and Fei Long, I think is his name. Both of these guys, they're very cool figures. They probably wouldn't have made the best of the year list anyway, But those guys were released in a previous year. I just got them this year. Same as this Daredevil Elektra figure. She is not from this year. This Star Wars figure of Shin Hati. She's a cool character. I don't buy a whole lot of Star Wars figures anymore. But yeah, she's going to go. Martian Manhunter from McFarlane Toys. He's very cool, but just recently got him. Same as Ambush Bug here. Kind of a crazy looking little character. But yeah, both of those guys have to go. And another DC Multiverse figure here is Metallo. He was also released last year, so he's going to be eliminated. Now, I've got a few Marvel Legends here that I just got in the past week or so. This here is the Superior Iron Man. It's kind of a cool pearlescent Iron Man. I haven't talked about this figure on my channel yet because I haven't had a chance to do a review, but he wasn't released this year, so he's got to go. Same as this here 3-pack. This is a 3-pack of villains called the Cabal, and you've got Dr. Doom, Norman Osborn as the Iron Patriot, and Taskmaster. All very cool figures, but they were released last year, so they all got to go. And then this Godzilla here, this is a Shogun Ultimates figure from Super 7. He's big, he's adorable, he's cool, he's translucent orange. Very, very neat. But he was released last year, so he's going to go too. Now you'll see I've got lots of reaction figures here. Most of them happen to be Godzillas. These are little 3 3/4 inch figures. I love these things. I've acquired a lot of them the past 3 months. But I've got a few over here that were released last year or older. Like this green Godzilla. It's supposed to be based on the old movie colors. This is an older figure that was released a couple of years ago, so he doesn't count. We've got this kind of dancing, jumping Godzilla. We got Bert and Ernie, as well as the Yip Yip Martians and Guy Smiley here, all from the Sesame Street line. Those were all from last year. Then I've got Toy Colors Rodan. He's one of Godzilla's enemies. That was released a couple of years ago as well. And lastly, I've got the Batman of Ur-NR. So this is a figure that I didn't really think I wanted because I don't really care about this character. But then I kind of regretted not getting him, and I scrambled to go find him somewhere. But yeah, it was released at least a year ago, maybe 2. So he doesn't count either. Okay, we've just about finished weeding out all the figures that don't qualify. I did want to kind of showcase this one last one that we have to get rid of. This here is Hammerhead from Star Wars, also known as Moma Nadon. Now, I always loved this guy from when I was a kid. He's one of my favorite characters from Star Wars. I love all the weird aliens. And since I started collecting the 6-inch Star Wars Black Series figures, I've really wanted them to make this guy. And it took them a really long time to do it. And even though he was released last year, I pre-ordered him, but my pre-order got canceled, and I wasn't able to get him. Now, my buddy Chad gave this guy to me for my birthday this past January. So it's awesome that I got him. This is a figure that could have possibly made my best of 2024 list if he had arrived when he was supposed to. So it's kind of a shame that this guy doesn't get a chance to compete. But yeah, cool figure, but he's got to go. Okay, so now let's talk about these reaction figures. I'm always pretty brutal when it comes to reaction figures. I do love these things. They almost shouldn't be forced to compete against these other bigger, more detailed figures. But, you know, I don't really want to have to do multiple lists. So it is what it is. So I love all of these guys. There's not a bad one in the bunch, really. But it's pretty unlikely that any of them are going to make my best action figure of the year list because there's just too much competition. So many of these figures are repaints of figures I already have. Like you can even see here on the desk, I've got this green King Ghidorah along with this translucent yellow one. That Shogun Godzilla, I've got him in 3 different colors here, including the ghost clear one, which is very, very cool. I like that one a lot. A couple of Mecha Godzillas there in different colors, clear, green. Lots of Godzillas, including Godzilla -1 from the latest movie. This is a very cool reaction figure. I think I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of all of them. A couple ones I should maybe showcase are these metallic figures. They came in blind boxes. So I've got a metallic green Godzilla here, metallic red Mecha Godzilla, and a metallic green Megalon. I love these things. I'm actually not 100% sure if they came out this year or last year. These are Target exclusives, so I can't get them here in Canada. I had to go to eBay and pay too much money to get them. So I just got them recently, but I think it is possible they came out in 2024 anyway. But as cool as they are with those metallic colors, they are just repaints of figures I already have in my collection a couple of times over. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say all of these Godzilla reaction figures, although you know what? He probably isn't going to make it to the end, but I think I might let Titanosaurus here hang out for a bit. He's kind of an obscure, cool character. This is his first time getting an action figure basically ever, and I'm really excited to have him there. So yeah, he's in a little bit of a different situation than all these other Godzillas. So yeah, I'm going to get rid of these guys, but I'm going to hold on to Titanosaurus. Okay, so by getting rid of the reaction figures, that has really cleared up a lot of space. There's not a whole lot of work to do here. I'll start off with this guy. This is a dinosaur from the Jurassic Park line from Mattel. I don't remember what this dinosaur was called. It was kind of an impulse buy because he was only $10 at Walmart, and I love feathered dinosaurs. But yeah, it's pretty limited as far as articulation and paint apps. So yeah, he's going to get eliminated. And over here, so this is the Black Manta Superpowers figure that came with the sub. Now, not only does the sub give him a bit of a leg up, but this is a really cool action figure. It's actually the third time this figure was released, but I think this is the best paint job we've got. It's one of my favorite of the Superpowers line, so he's going to stick around. But this Aquaman was also included, and it's okay, but I just can't get into an Aquaman with a beard like that. I want my clean-shaven Aquaman with his short hair. So yeah, Aquaman's going to go. All right, so we've got a few Masters of the Universe Origins figures here. This here is Horde Trooper Prime. He is basically a standard Horde Trooper who we previously got in silver, but he's repainted in red with a cloth cape and some extra accessories. He's like a newly created character. He's not based on any vintage toy or anything. He's cool. I'm happy to add him to my ranks, but he is not a toy of the year for me. So he's going to go. This here is Mantenna, as he appeared in the She-Ra cartoon. Now, Mantenna is my second favorite Masters of the Universe character, just behind Merman. However, my love for him stems from his look of the vintage toy. I actually think he's kind of a dork in the cartoon. As you can see, he's all skinny. He's got this doofy face, whereas the toy version was actually kind of scary. So, yeah, I don't really care for this cartoon one all that much, so Mantenna is going to go too. And then we've got Hero, who I just recently got. He was an exclusive to Mattel's website, Mattel Creations. This guy is an ancestor, or yeah, I guess an ancestor of He-Man's. And yeah, he's okay. He's kind of a dork. He looks like an old Ken doll. I like his vac metal outfit, but I don't really have any nostalgic ties to this character because he was not included in the vintage toy line or anything. So glad I got him, but yeah, he's not going to make it either. Then I've got animated versions of She-Ra and Ram Man back there. Both of them are pretty cool, so they're going to stick around. This here is Moduloc. This is the guy that you can take them apart and you can build like kind of two separate characters and give them extra arms and extra legs. Like he's cool, but we've had better versions of Moduloc in the past. I found this one was a little annoying trying to get all the pieces to stick together, and he came with a little like kind of a key almost. You have to pry the pieces apart, which just seemed like extra work. So yeah, Moduloc is all right, but he's not going to make my toy of the year. And then let's look at these guys over here. We've got Rio Blast, the cowboy guy. Again, I'm happy to get him because this was a character featured in the vintage toy line. And I'm hoping that eventually the Origins gives us new versions of all of the vintage toys. But yeah, this was not a character I had as a kid. I actually think he's a little silly as a cowboy in outer space. So yeah, he's going to go. And lastly, the Necroconda here. This is a cool original creation, kind of like the Horde Trooper Prime. This is not based on a previously released figure or anything. They basically just mashed a bunch of parts together from like King Hiss and Skeletor and He-Man's armor and things like that. And then they gave him a glow-in-the-dark feature. It's cool, and I like his like soft goods cape in the back there. But yeah, he's just not toy of the year for me. He's all, you know, reused parts and not a character I have any attachment to. So yeah, he's going to go too. All right, so we'll shimmy things around a little bit here, try to give some of these figures a little bit more room to breathe. We'll start over here with Ramjet. This is a toy that I was very excited to get because I have long wanted to get a complete set of the Transformer Seekers. But I missed out on this figure when it was initially released in a 2-pack because it was a Target exclusive. But they re-released him. Now, I do count this figure as a 2025 release because he was released in a new format. He was single carded as opposed to in a 2-pack. So he could qualify. But this is basically a repaint of a figure I already have 4 or 5 times because I do have the other Seeker Jets like Thrust and Dirge. So even though I was thrilled to get him, he does complete a sub-team for me. He just doesn't bring enough new to the table. So yeah, he's going to go. Now, this here is a Stormtrooper that I just picked up. This was an impulse buy from Walmart the other day. He's kind of childish. Most of the toys that you see back here are kind of, you know, collector focused. A lot of them aren't the kind of things you can just go into, you know, Walmart and buy. But every now and again, I have a hard time going to Walmart and not treating myself to something small and stupid. So kind of like the dinosaur from Jurassic Park. I saw this guy the other day, and I just thought he was super cool. It's super simple. It barely moves. He's got these translucent fists. But he opens up. I don't know if I can do it with one hand here. Bear with me a second. Yeah, but basically the suit pops open like this. And there is a little 3 3/4 inch Stormtrooper figure that goes inside. Now, it's a nice looking Stormtrooper figure. He would blend in well with my 3 3/4 inch collection. He's not like, you know, dumbed down or extra childish or anything. Like, he looks good. It's a nice sculpt. And who doesn't love a Stormtrooper? I have tons of Stormtroopers in my collection already, so that alone wouldn't get him to the best of the year list. I really do think this shell, this outer suit, is really cool. It reminds me of the snake armor that I used to have for my G.I. Joes back in the 80s. It's very cool. It's fun, but it's definitely not a toy of the year for me. It's just a little too simple. So yeah, he's going to go too. Now I've got a couple of figures here. I forget which company made these, but these are from a Sega Genesis line of toys. So this guy here is the dragon. He's the Were Dragon from Altered Beast. And this here is Roo, the boxing kangaroo from Streets of Rage. Both these guys are a ton of fun. I think they were $15 at Walmart. And they're about, you know, in the not quite 6-inch scale, maybe about a 5-inch scale. They've got a lot of articulation. Like you can see, he's got double jointed elbows and knees, and they got tail articulation. They came with accessories like blast effects and stuff too. The dragon had fire breath. You know, just because these figures were cheap and they are kind of marketed towards children, less so than collectors, I kind of just view them differently. Like, these couldn't possibly be in my best of the year list, but they are really, really cool for what they are. And it was really good value for like what I paid for them. So I'm going to think on those guys for a minute. I've got a couple of Street Fighter figures here. I've got Guile, who, this guy is great. I just love these Jada Street Fighter toys. And this guy here is just a lot of fun. He's got that crazy flat top haircut. He's got his real metal little dog tags there. Great articulation, great accessories. You know, like he came with an alternate yelling head, and he came with some blast effects, and I think some alternate hands and stuff. Just very, very cool. I'm going to go ahead and say that Guile here is the first lock. This guy is going to go through. He's one of the best of the first quarter of 2025. My other Street Fighter figure here is Cammy. Now, I was really looking forward to this figure. Now, technically, you might qualify her as a 2024 figure because I do think some people were able to get a hold of her late last year. I was not able to get one until this year. And, you know, it's one of those that kind of walks the fine line, because I had pre-ordered her in 2024. So I should have got her as soon as she came out. So the fact that mine was a little bit delayed, I think I could still count her. Although I was so looking forward to her, and I just feel like she doesn't quite live up to my expectations. She has 2 different head sculpts as well, but I didn't think either of them was quite... Like, I don't like her facial expression here. The lips, they're a little too puckered. The fact that she's got so much bare skin, and you see those seams on her skin, it's not so bad when you can hide those in a pair of pants or something, but the seams on her body just don't look great. I really, really wanted to love this figure, and I do like it. I just don't think it's going to be my toy of the year. So I think Cammy's going to go. Now I've got another Street Fighter figure here from Jada. This here is M. Bison. Now, this is a cool figure, but yeah, he's not going to make my list either. I didn't intend to buy as many of these Street Fighter figures as I have. I was really only going to buy my 2 or 3 favorite characters, but the figures are just so well made and they're so fun to play with that I end up buying characters like M. Bison and Guile, who I wasn't necessarily planning on buying. But if I was going to add an M. Bison to my collection, and if he had at all a shot of getting to my best of the year list, I probably would have wanted the standard red colors. Each of these figures, if you've ever played Street Fighter, is either already available or going to be available in 2 different colors. So one is the Player 1 colors and one is the Player 2. I passed on M. Bison when he was first released in his red Player 1 colors, but I did pick up this blue Player 2. So it's cool, but it's not his iconic look that I know him from. So even though he's great, just like all of the Jada Street Fighter figures, he's got this big soft goods cape that's wired that you can pose. He's got blast effects and everything. Cool figure, but yeah, he's going to go. And then I've got some Marvel Legends here. Not as many as I normally do. It's been kind of a light year so far for Marvel Legends. I've got this Ultimate Wolverine. I wasn't going to buy this one at first because I kind of feel I have plenty of Wolverines in my collection, but I collected the entire run of Ultimate X-Men back in the early 2000s. It's the only time I ever completed a run of X-Men. I usually don't read standard X-Men comics, but when they rebooted the universe for the Ultimate Universe, I decided to give it a go. So in a way, this is like my Wolverine more than any other Wolverine. I don't really like this look better than his standard mask look, but I do have an attachment to this figure, so I decided to pick it up. But yeah, he's not going to be a toy of the year. It is nice. And actually, I haven't had a chance to review any of these Marvel Legends yet, so I probably shouldn't talk in depth about them because then I'll have nothing to talk about in my review. So I'll keep it simple here. Spider-Man, this is Spider-Man Unlimited. Nice figure, but not toy of the year. Chameleon, really cool nod to the 90s Toy Biz toy line. Happy to have him, but he is not toy of the year. This is Electro. Maybe not as you're used to him. This is the female version. She is a character named Francine Fry. She was like Electro's girlfriend, and then she got his powers. It's really cool to see like a new character like this, a relatively new character, get an action figure, and I think it's a really nice action figure. I don't think it's going to be a toy of the year. I like it a lot, though. And then we've got Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. This is her in her Warbird outfit. Or you could say that this is Moonstone. I think that's who it's actually supposed to be. Carol Danvers, the Captain Marvel we all know from the movies and stuff, she used to wear this outfit in the comic books. And then for a time, a supervillain known as Moonstone started wearing this costume again more recently when she was a member of the Dark Avengers. So I don't really know which character I would kind of consider this to be on my shelf. It's a really nice figure, but it's mostly a repaint of a figure that was released last year. It's really nice, but yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say it's not going to be toy of the year. I might hold on to Electro for a minute, but yeah, Captain Marvel's going to go. Now I'm coming up to some tough decisions here because, as you'll see, some of the figures I have to take a look at, like these Supermans, it's basically the same figure twice with a different paint job. This set of Ninja Turtles, it's basically the same figure 4 times. And then I've got some Spawn figures over here. There's basically the same figure 3 times in a different paint job. By default, my first instinct is to say, well, if those figures are going to advance, and spoiler alert, they will. But I would think that maybe just one of them would go. But now that I'm seeing how many toys I've already eliminated, I do want at least 15 toys to kind of advance to my next round. And yeah, I don't know. I love these figures so much. Like, really, all 4 of those turtles could advance to the next round. They are all fantastic. I love the Supermans. I love the Spawns. So I don't know what I'm going to do to those guys. I'm going to hold on to them till the end, I think. Let's take a look at Batman here. This is from McFarlane, his DC Multiverse line. It's not perfect because he's a little stiff. You can't really move his head too much or anything, but it's based on Todd McFarlane's artwork, and I think it's a fantastic Batman. I like it a lot, so I think he's going to stick around. Now, I've got a couple of kaiju figures here from a company called Titanic Creations, and these are both based on Korean kaiju movies. So this here is Yongari, which is based on I think this was a South Korean movie. And then we've got Pulgasari, which was based on a North Korean kaiju movie. Now, both these figures are really nice, especially considering that Titanic Creations is a one-man show. It's a small company. Last year, I got their Gorgo figure, who I thought was a lot of fun, but it didn't quite make my list. And I think Yongari's in a similar spot. It's a nice figure. It's cool. Some of his joints are a little loose, and even though he's got some unique features like this, kind of rhinoceros horn that shoots a laser on his face, he does still kind of look like a budget Godzilla. And so that's nothing against Titanic Creations. It's just the character of Yongari isn't all that, new, fresh, exciting. So I think it's a well-done figure, but I think I'm going to eliminate Yongari. On the other hand, I know very little about Pulgasari. At least I did before this figure was announced. I have since went and actually watched the movie. It was available on YouTube. And even though the movie, it wasn't bad. It was a little corny and a little, dated perhaps, but this figure is awesome. Now, it was available in, I think, 3, maybe 4 different colors. Now, I went with the translucent red with the gold highlights, and yeah, he looks great. He's got like an articulated jaw here, and you can see he came with a bunch of really cool accessories, including this train I've got him holding on to. But yeah, the combination of the translucent red and the gold paint job, this guy is just super cool, and he stands out on my shelf as something unique. So along with Guile, I'm going to say Pulgasari is a lock. So the only figures left that I haven't touched on at all are my 4 G.I. Joe classified figures. Now, if you're a regular viewer of my channel, you would probably know that G.I. Joe is probably my favorite brand to collect ever since I was a kid. I absolutely love all these characters, but I just recently posted my review video of these figures. And what's interesting about these guys is not a single one of these figures were a toy that I had when I was a kid. Me and my older brother used to collect everything together, and my brother Doug had Xandar when we were kids. He had Dial Tone, and he had Leatherneck. Neither of us had the Saw Viper, because the original 1990 Saw Viper came out after we had already kind of grown out of collecting G.I. Joe. So that doesn't really matter so much, but I tend to be more attached to G.I. Joe characters that I had as a kid myself. Every one of these figures is fantastic, though. I don't think there's a flaw with any one of them. Like, Leatherneck looks great with those removable goggles and his removable hat. Very, very cool. The Saw Viper, it's a very cool design with a removable helmet. Dial Tone looks great as well. And then Xandar, this is the brother of Zartan and Zorana. This is a really cool figure too. It's the best he's ever looked. Very well done. Any of these figures could advance. And who knows? Maybe they even all will. They're all really, really good. All right, so let's take a quick look at what we got. We got a couple of Sega figures, Batman, 2 Supermans, which, so what we've got here, this is the Christopher Reeve Superman, based on like the movies from the late 70s, early 80s. I loved those movies as a kid. I still do. And I've always wanted a Christopher Reeve Superman. He finally came out and he looks fantastic. And in Superman 3, Superman, or at least Clark Kent, has to fight an evil version of himself, represented here by this Superman with kind of 5 o'clock shadow and a darker, dirtier costume. I love absolutely both of these things. I love them. They're great. Yeah, so then we get the Turtles. We've got our medieval spawns, which I know you guys couldn't really see earlier, but now you can get a good look at them. These figures were part of a Kickstarter, so it was available in 3 different variations. This here is the base blue spawn, and then we've got this one here, which is the black, and then this one here is the kind of pewter, all silver version. So these are the same figure, but they all came with a slew of interchangeable parts. So I was able to give them different shields and different weapons and different heads even. We'll take a closer look at them once I clear up a little room, but these guys are all awesome. It is the same figure, but since they're customizable, yeah, they could maybe all advance. So what do we got here? Again, I like Electro. She's fun, she's bright, but the figure itself just isn't anything particularly special. Like most of the outfit, like the lightning bolts or anything, are just painted on a female body that we've seen a bunch of times before. There's not a whole lot of new parts there. I think the mask looks really good, but yeah, I'm going to get rid of Francine Fry here. And as fun as these Sega figures are, again, they were great value for what I paid for them. I just don't think they could be my toy of the year. They're very well executed. I just don't have any attachment. I didn't play either of these games growing up. I might have played Streets of Rage, but I've never played Altered Beast. They're a lot of fun. I'm glad I got them, but yeah, they're not my toys of the year, so I think both of them are going to go. Okay, so I think I've got 20 action figures left here. 2 of them I've locked in with Guile and Pulgasari, and then everybody else is still in contention here. Now, as far as these cartoon collection Masters of the Universe, both She-Ra and Ram Man, they look great. I've never been a huge fan of Ram Man, but this is just such a good looking version. I think these cartoon figures are just so nice. Like the Stratos figure they did last year was just so well done. The He-Man, the Beast-Man, I've just really been liking these things. And even though I have a previous release of cartoon She-Ra from Super 7, this one is just so much better. Like, it's such a nice paint job on the face there. Like, she looks great. You know, I think I'm going to go ahead and say both of those 2 are going to advance. But I think I'm going to have to say goodbye to Titanosaurus. Again, it's just so hard for a little 3 3/4 inch action figure with 5 points of articulation to compete. So he's going to go. Similarly, Black Manta, he doesn't have much more articulation and he's not much bigger. He's about 4 inches and he's got, I think, 7 points of articulation. He's still pretty simple because he's based on the old Superpowers toys from the 80s. It just, you know, this guy's got that submarine. So, yeah, it's tough to let go of him, but we'll see. Let's take a look at those Ninja Turtles. All right, so here we go. We've got Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo. Now, growing up, me and my brother split our Ninja Turtles collection just like everything else. So I am partial to Donatello and Leonardo because those were the 2 figures that I actually owned as a kid. They were my favorite from the cartoon. I liked that he was a stoic leader and that he was smart. I didn't really like that Raphael was a dickhead or that Michelangelo was a party animal. But these figures are based on the old Mirage comic books before they really had those personalities associated with them, and they all look incredible. They're basically all the same figure other than their weapons and their head sculpts. So Leonardo's got this kind of scowl. Raphael, a different scowl. Donatello, he's got a closed mouth. He looks a little more pensive. And Michelangelo, you could kind of say that's smiling, but his eyes still look a little bit angry. I love them all. And for a time, I considered just buying one of them because they were a little bit expensive. And I thought, I've already got so many Ninja Turtles in my collection. Maybe I'll just buy one to kind of scratch that itch. But when I saw them in store, I just couldn't go home with one of them. I had to take all four. But I can't see these taking up 4 different spots on my best of the year list. I'm just going to go ahead and say my favorite turtle, Leonardo, is going to advance, and the other 3 are going to be eliminated. Now, when I was considering just buying a single figure, it was actually going to be Donatello because I thought he had the best accessories. He came with a little Utrom alien and a Mouser, which were both cooler than the stuff that Leonardo came with. But in the grand scheme of things, it's the figure that really matters, and I like that he's got those extra straps on his belt there that kind of help differentiate him. I like that he's got storage for his swords there in the sheaths on the back. And I just happen to like Leonardo anyway. So yeah, Leonardo's a lock. These guys got to go. Okay, so I've got 5 figures locked over here. And I've got another 11 figures to choose from still. So really, if my aim was to get down to 15, I really only need to eliminate 1 more figure. Now, when it comes to these medieval spawns, obviously one of these figures is going to get through at least, maybe more so. This is an incredible figure. I was very, very pleased with it. If you didn't see my video that I posted on these things, you should check it out. But like, the detail on these things is awesome. There's just so much sculpted detail. They've got their armor. You can change their armor out with magnets. So that makes them easily customizable. He's got real metal chain there on his weapon. You can see the shield I've given this guy. Super detailed. This guy here, he's got a shield, but I went with the round shield with like the Spawn logo. Even their chest plates you can change out via magnets. So this guy, he's got the skull. This guy does not. The weapons, you can see I've got them all with different weapons. The different heads are really cool. This guy here, this has got kind of the most standard medieval Spawn head that's true to the comic books. But you can take it off and he's got his little hamburger head underneath, which is really cool. This one here, I gave him kind of this Spartan style head with the like feathered plumage on the top, which I really like. And then this guy here, he's got this cool helmet that you can put it down to cover his whole face. Or you can lift it up. It's hard to do with one hand here. And you can see his hamburger head there underneath. They're all so cool. But I think I'm going to go ahead and say this guy. I like the black base on him. So I'm going to go ahead and say that he's a lock. They all look so nice. But I think this guy was such a pleasant surprise. Originally, the Kickstarter was going to have a blue and black. And then this guy here was just going to be a flat matte gray with the intent for customizers to paint it themselves. And I had zero interest in the matte gray one, and then he decided late into the Kickstarter campaign to change it from matte gray to this silver with a black wash so that it would look like a pewter like collectible from like a Dungeons and Dragons game or something. And it really brings out all the detail. Like that chainmail looks so cool. So I'm going to go ahead and say this one is a lock as well, and I'm going to let the blue one go. Even though the Spartan helmet is very, very cool, it's just, I think I'm going to, yeah, not all 3 of these guys need to go. It doesn't really make sense to have 3 of basically the same figure on my best of the year list. So yeah, he's going to be eliminated. So here we've got 7 figures locked up. We got these 4 G.I. Joes. They're all so well done. I don't imagine they'll all make my best of the year list, partly just because I don't have the attachment to these characters, and I already know we've got a lot of other cool G.I. Joes coming later this year that I don't see most of these guys making it to the end. Xandar probably has the best chance for me, but they're all so well done. I'm just going to go ahead and say that all 4 of these Joes are locked up. As much as I love this Black Manta paint job and the submarine, realistically, I know the competition is just going to be too tight. I've got some really amazing figures coming in the next couple of weeks, let alone next, 9 months. So, yeah, I might as well just get rid of him now. So, we're going to get rid of Black Manta. So, the Joes are in. So, it's just a matter of considering these DC Multiverse. Batman, I don't know if he's going to chance to make it to the very end, but this is a cool figure. I like it a lot. Yeah, I like the cape on him, but considering that most of McFarlane's caped characters now are getting these cloth wired capes that you can pose, this does start to feel a little like old-fashioned. But I'm going to go ahead and say Batman's a lock. And if only one of these Supermen were going to advance, I would say it's the standard Christopher Reeve one in the nice clean outfit. I've got them both on flight stands, by the way, which is an awesome accessory. He's got the yellow emblem on the back of his cape. So, you know, how great is that? It's such a classic looking Superman. This guy does as well. Now, it might seem a little redundant to put both of these guys on my best of the year list. I don't think both of them will make it to the end. So the clean one probably has a better chance. But man, was I excited to get this figure. It was just such a nice surprise. It seems so obvious that we would have got a Christopher Reeve Superman figure eventually. And not to say there have never been any, but most of them have been kind of like higher end figures or 12-inch doll type of thing. So to get an action figure of Christopher Reeve with such a good likeness and everything, it seems like a long time coming. But I never imagined that we would get the evil Superman. So just what a nice surprise that was. I'm going to go ahead and say that they are both locked in for now. So there you have it. Those are my 14 candidates for best of the year. These are my favorites of the first quarter of 2025. So just to recap, we've got Paul Gassari from Titanic Creations. We've got Medieval Spawn with the black colors as well as the metallic colors from McFarlane Toys. We have got both She-Ra and Ram Man from Mattel's Masters of the Universe cartoon collection. We've got NECA's Leonardo based on the Mirage comic books. From Hasbro's G.I. Joe Classified line, we've got Leatherneck, Xandar, Saw Viper, and Dial Tone. From McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, we've got the Batman from the Batman and Spawn crossover. And then we've got Superman and Evil Superman from the Christopher Reeve movies. And lastly, we've got Guile from Jada Toys, the Street Fighter line. So a pretty cool mix of toys, all of them great. So we'll see how they fare at the end of the year. Okay, so that was it. My best action figures of the first quarter of 2025. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me comments below. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. And be sure to stay tuned for the next video. So I'll see you then. Ciao.